Our next step in making our bodice for our dress is we are going to actually now finally get to attach our shoulder seams together. So this will be a time where it will be really nice to do a fitting after this because the whole bodice will pretty much be together. It just won't have a zip in at the back. So to do this, so these are my, this would be my right side and this will be my left side. So I need to fold the back over the front. And if you remember, we already have folded in and ironed down and even stitched down the lining, the little seam allowance bit of the lining there. So I'm actually only going to sew through, pin through and sew through just the good fabric. And you might even want to just sort of push that lining bit down a little bit further just to make sure you're definitely not catching the lining as you're doing this bit. It's a bit of a wonky pin, let me just fix it up. So this, I like to do this technique because it actually means it's a little bit less hand sewing for me. And I think I mentioned in a previous video, but I'm a bit lazy, and if I can do things by a machine, I will. So just to show you how this is going to work, when this is stitched as a seam, it will actually close this off nicely here. So you can see a nice seam there, and the seam allowance will fold either way. It will iron open and will fold into there. And then all we'll have to do is do just a very quick little slip stitch to close off that as well. There are other techniques for doing this, and also other techniques that also allow you to just do it pretty much all by the machine. So this is just one way of doing it, but I find it a nice simple way. So this is the way that I teach you. So sew up the pin up the other one. So I can see that I've actually a little bit done my folding a little bit inaccurately when I folded down my seam, my lining piece before, and they don't quite join up. So I want to be really careful to make sure I'm pushing that lining out of the way so that I don't sew my lining in this piece. So it's fine to actually get into it and push it out of the way as you sew. So I'm going to go and sew these up and I'll show you how they look when they're turned out. So now that I've got those sewn together, I'm actually just using my sleeve board, sleeve ironing board, so that I can just get into this properly in order to iron it open. So I turn my iron on as well. Let my iron warm up for a second. So I'm going to press this seam open and then I'm going to tuck this seam into the lining bit. It's not very hot yet, so normally it wouldn't take very long. But I can even use the iron to help me start tucking that in as well. So you'll see when I tuck that in here, and then all I'll have to do is do a nice little slip stitch to sew that closed, and then my lining will be all closed in as well. So putting this over here, I hope I'm not going off camera, I apologise if I am. Pressing it all open, nice and flat, and making sure it all tucks in to the lining layer. This. Okay, so we can do a little slip stitch. You guys have already done your hand sewing stuff, so I don't need to show you slip stitching. So you do slip stitch to press all of that open, and then it's a nice, to sew all that closed. Go around as well when you're hand sewing and just check little places like that where what's happened there is I haven't quite stitched my seam all the way to where the lining was, so I might just need to do a little hand stitch to bring it up correctly to the right spot and to just close it around nicely. And then again, it's a nice time to maybe do a quick little fitting of it, see how it's looking, and then we're ready to attach the skirt. So we're moving along really quickly with our little dress here. So that's all for doing the shoulder seams. Bye.